Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Made from Grapes Live. My name's Liam, and together with Severin, we are Made from Grapes. Joining us this week, we've got Susan from Vin Cru and Phoebe from Valhalla's Goat.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about women in wine. But first, Susan, come to you. How did you get into wine?
Okay, so I'm a woman in wine, as you said there, and I got into wine kind of by accident, which feels like quite a lot of people ended up in the same way. I was teaching English in a university in Tours in France, knowing nothing about wine, and when I think back to all the wonderful wines I could have been drinking in that region and didn't, I just think, oh, good Lord. After uni and kind of just wondering what to do without really having a plan. Had always been interested in traveling and learning languages from a really, really young age, and had friends from the US where I'd spent a bit of time living before uni, who gave me a random phone call one day and said, we are trying to put together or would like to see better Spanish wine where we're living. They were based in Seattle. So as crazy as this sounds, we're going to try and set up a little import company and see if we can find some wines and get them here. We don't know anyone else that speaks Spanish that might be up for coming along on a mad adventure like this. Are you up for it? So, I didn't really have to think very long about the question. I was like, sure, I have no other plans. What else am I going to do? And thus began the journey into wine. So it was crazy. There was 3 of us. We were all pretty young. I really didn't know very much about wine, but I spoke Spanish and had lived there before, and kind of started off as like translator, interpreter, whatever. And 2 women who loved wine. I hadn't worked in the profession before, but just were sure that there was more than, big brand Riojas to get, and that they weren't seeing them on the market. So winging it is an understatement. But, I think sometimes the less experience you have, the bigger the risks that you take, and you just go for it. So we literally met in Madrid, got in a car, got a copy of the Guia Pinin, the little guide to wines in Spain, and drove around and just old school style drove up to these tiny wineries where, they had hardly any production and didn't export. We started in Galicia in the northwest, and then drove up to these wineries and just kind of introduced ourselves and tasted a bunch of stuff. And for 2 weeks, we just did that most days. And for me, it was an amazing baptism of fire to get to try.
Okay.
Well, we took turns. We had designated drivers, or we would go and taste with them and then bring samples back with us in the evening to drink, as it were. But it was just wild. When I think back to the experiences, and in Galicia, they're known for their hospitality, even more than in the rest of the country. And seeing these small wineries where it is literally a family, they've got the washing on the line when you drive in, and they're making their own jamon from the pigs in their farmyard and stuff. So my introduction to wine was really in the kind of meeting winemakers as farmers in a very small, rural, not big production, no tasting room, really, really kind of honest kind of way, which I think I've just been so lucky to have had that as my first experience. And it was wild, and through a combination of good luck, hopefully good palates, and a great vintage. It was 2003, 2004 when I was there. We just found some amazing stuff, some Godello, Mencía from Ribeira Sacra, Treixadura, stuff that, I'd never heard of for sure, and that you didn't see. So packed up our suitcases full of samples, because if you've ever had the experience of trying to send samples to the US of wine, it's like you might as well be a terrorist. It's a quite administrative process. So we packed our suitcases, took a bunch of stuff back to Seattle, and basically took them around some distributors, not having a clue what we were doing, not working in the industry or having any connections, just having these wines that we thought were awesome and that we were sure someone else would as well. And we got lucky. We got a guy who was like, who are you? What are you doing? I think out of curiosity, like, and you come then, and just loved the wines, and took a risk and took us on, and brought in, we had 13 wines altogether, and he took them all. The distributor was called Cavatappi. He's now making his own wine, a guy called Peter Dow. And thus began our our importing business, if you like. And then once we got that kind of established and helped them a bit doing some tastings and getting the wine out there, I moved back to Spain and was based first of all in Salamanca. Most of the wines we had were from the northwest, so that made sense to be there. And based there and doing a lot of the kind of non-glamorous stuff you don't often hear about. Severin, you'll know all about this, about logistics and organising deliveries and the paperwork and customs forms and all that kind of stuff. So that was my introduction. Oh, a combination of things. A back injury. The company that we had, this is a really bad story actually. There were 3 of us, and unfortunately one of Danny was killed in a car crash. It's a bit of a downer on this story. So we didn't continue with the company as 2 rather than the 3, as it had been a kind of 3 musketeers type of adventure. So yeah, combination of things. Came back to Scotland and who you'll know as an importer distributor, and just a great company to get involved with. They were really enthusiastic about what they were doing. They were really keen to support other people who were. So I kind of started off in marketing and brand ambassador, and again working with the producers, but quite quickly moved into doing export sales with them, and ended up doing their European sales, which was another adventure because it got me all over the place. Again, selling. They had a portfolio of wines that they made in partnership with other wineries, and they exported those wines. So yeah, back on the road again and learning a ton, and I did that for, I think I was with them for about 5 years, and from there I then moved on to work for a French producer making Albarino in the Languedoc, obviously. So following maybe the obvious path hasn't been part of my past maybe, but yeah, and again doing export sales with them, but that time mostly in America and Canada as the main market. So back kind of almost full circle really to ending up back in Seattle, ironically. Yeah, and then the traveling had been an amazing adventure. It was beginning to become a little bit, I think the excitement and adventure was becoming more of hassle of another day at the airport, another 2 weeks on the road, and when you don't love it and it's not just really, really exciting, I think it's time to kind of pass the baton on. So I thought I'll come back to Glasgow for the weather, partly. And
like today?
Exactly, because I've heard their summers are amazing. And so then I thought, well, I've worked in a lot of different areas of the industry, but I've never actually done on-trade work since having worked in the wine industry. And when you're working in export sales and the type of stuff I was doing, you get really, really far away from the actual customer. So I would never actually see anybody enjoying a glass of the wine that I was selling. You're like 2 steps removed. And I think I just really started to miss that experience of it. That's the bit that's fun. That's the bit I like, is talking to somebody, thinking about a wine they like, and then letting them see it or taste it and seeing them enjoying it. Mm-hmm. So I ended up doing on-trade sales in the south of Scotland with Bibendum, which was kind of partnership with C&C that also owns Tennant. So I saw a range of different types of wine customers, from really great quality and exciting and adventurous to quite eye-openingly awful, and everything in between. And then heard about Vin Cru opening up, and I thought, hang on a minute, what's a natural wine bar opening up in Glasgow? Kind of informal vibe. It's not associated with a Michelin restaurant, and I really liked the ethos of what they were trying to do and encourage people in Glasgow to discover these types of wines and the philosophy of natural wines and less chemicals and a more sustainable approach. So yeah, I got chatting to those guys and they offered me a job. I started there in December, and it lasted till furlough.
And then voila.
Exactly. Cool. But so it's been a kind of short start to it, but that's how we've ended up where we are here.
Cool.
Oh my goodness, what an amazing journey.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like you just fell straight into Spain and south of Scotland.
It was a series of very lucky opportunities, and being young enough and daft enough just to go, sure, like, why not? I think, people say like the wisdom of age, but as you get older, like I probably wouldn't have said yes.
That's what was we going to say, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's here I am back in rainy Glasgow.
Okay, Phoebe.
Only today. Only today is rain.
Yeah.
Only today.
Come on now.
Yeah, we had a not bad May.
Oh, it's been amazing.
Phoebe, everyone knows about Valhalla's goat, but how did you get into wine?
I'm just a lush. Susan was amazing. I've always been interested in food. That's it. And I wanted a part-time job when I was at uni, and I was drinking an absolute ton of Oddbins Essential Red. I don't think any of anyways, it was $3.99 a bottle, and I used to work in the cheese shop, managed the cheese shop, and used to come over to this Oddbins in Kelvin Bridge and buy this £4 wine. And one day the manager here said, do you want to come and work part-time? And I was like, I know nothing about this aside from this Essential Red. And she was like, that's fine, just tell everyone that. I can't keep away from Kelvin Bridge, that's it. Came back here part-time, went and fannied about a bit in other places with other things, and then back here, all the while just kind of drinking and exploring wine a bit more, and then started managing in here and got really, really lucky with, and I think I must be the luckiest person in Glasgow when it comes to wine trips, and went on a lot of wine trips, and totally fell in love with the idea of, as you said, Susan, these farmers wine, actually being soil and a product of place and person, and totally excited about that. Mm-hmm. And the more and more I learned about that, and the more I learn about that, the more exciting and wine is to me. So yeah, I've been here a while now, and it's a great job. I love it. It's
amazing.
How long has been open, Valhalla's Goat? Sorry.
Maybe 8 years, maybe 9 years,
right?
Maybe
okay.
10.
So the first, one of the first shops, really. We had Matthew last time, was the same kind of time also, maybe. I forgot how long. So you were one of the first.
I think Valhalla's Goat was maybe like the first independent wine shop that was like,
I
don't know, a place you could.
Well, we were, I don't know whether anyone remembers this, we were Kelvan for a while, and those were times.
Right, okay.
Kelvan, yeah.
But, that was really us just sitting around a table and getting drunk, and serving the odd customer that came in. But not now. That's not our ethos now at all in any way. Now it is serving more customers and spitting wine.
Yeah.
Whoa, spitting wine in Glasgow? Nah.
I love spitting wine.
Haven't seen that from you yet.
I always spit wine.
Yeah, me too.
It's aside from tonight here.
Okay, cool. Right. So as I said at the top of the show there, our theme this week is women in wine, and that's maybe not quite a satisfactory title, but we thought it was a kind of catch-all term that would allow us to have a wee chat about maybe some different stereotypes that come up in wine around gender, whether it's in employment, whether it's in wine descriptors, loads of stuff. But yeah, Sev, your mum had a wine shop. She was a bit of a groundbreaker, wasn't she?
Yeah, I mean, she started to manage, to run a wine shop in Paris in 1988, so a little while ago. And she was one of the first women to work for that massive company called Nicolas. They've got like 500 shops in all over France. They started like in the late 19th century. And so they've been waited late 80s to have the first woman to manage a wine shop. But yes, I mean, as we talked about to the guys previously, I mean, last time we mentioned the fact that, you work in a surrounding with alcohol. And actually, my mom's been robbed a few times, but that was more in the 90s. So she's been robbed, coming in the morning, broken shop. What they were looking for actually was cash. There's been once or so she's been robbed with guys with a gun. Just like 7:45 evening before the shop was going to be closed. That's when it's actually risky. There's less people in the street. It gets dark. It was in winter time, so also there's the festivities coming. So people, they want their champagne, etc. And there's more cash also. But she was lucky in the sense that the guy came in and asked for the till to be opened. Actually, there was nothing. She kept actually the money on her. She had a lot of cash on her, and she said, "You see, I have nothing." And he was like telling her, "Oh, okay, but can you come with me in the back?" And she was like, "No, take whatever you want, take any bottles you want, but you just go." But that with a gun on her belly. So when she told me about the story again, there was a lot of emotion, I can tell you guys. But that was in the 90s. So a lot of things changed since then. But yeah, it's important today about what we can say about women in general, what they brought to the wine world, and what's coming next. It's going to be a massive wave.
Like that.
I think as well. So today we're all drinking wines made by female winemakers, but as we were talking about before, whenever you speak to female winemakers, they don't really like to be called female winemakers. They're just winemakers. So that's the first thing we need to head on. Sev, what are you drinking? What are you drinking? But also, you were saying that even when you were serving wine in the Gannet, that if you said, "Oh, it's by a female winemaker," people were like, "Yeah, amazing."
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, just about that, it's true that even myself, so at the Gannet, so recently last year, I was like bragging during the description, say, "Oh, this is made by a female winemaker." Oh yeah, that's fantastic. But I mean, there is nothing special about it. It's been, as we said, winemaker women. I mean, there's been women making wines for a very long time. So we shouldn't be surprised about it. But yeah, so tonight we're having a wine.
Would that be a note though? People would. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead. No.
But it would be introduced in the restaurant as this is a wine from a female winemaker, as something that was an introduction to the wine, like a little potted.
It's always, it brings an extra, it gives an extra specialty for the people who are having the wine. It's just like thinking, context. You're really thinking, wow, okay, that you think that a woman can make wine? Oh, yeah, wow, well done. But yeah, I mean, what we were saying about recently with Liam, it's just like, winemaker, you see quite a lot of women making wines. Huh? It's more about the idea of like making a paint or creating music. There is some sort of poetry behind it, but having a woman working in a farm, in the land, in the vineyard, that is again another story. And when you have a woman who actually work in the vineyard and work in the cellar making the wine, it's quite special. It's true, but that's more about how you manage your time, really, as a woman, as a mother, Well, anyway, we can, I think, go deeper into that if we want. Yeah.
What are you drinking?
Oh, yeah, okay. So what I'm drinking. So it's a mommy. Her name is Alexandra Pascal. So we are, okay, you can see that? Okay, so we are in Burgundy.
Hooray!
Yeah, the classic. And this is very classic in the sense that we are in a village of Puligny-Montrachet, guys. Puligny-Montrachet. So we are in Côte de Beaune. And I I love my classic. I love my crazy wines, but that when you have a proper Chardonnay, then you realize that those guys, they know what they're doing, you know. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here you've got, this is a very small domaine, 14 hectares, okay. This is a 2014 vintage of Chardonnay, so Bourgogne appellation, okay. They've been making wines in the family for since the early 20th century. And yeah, so she works with her husband. The husband is in the vineyard, okay. He's taking care of the vines, and she makes the wine, okay. This is a sustainable farming, hand harvest, okay. 8 months fermentation and 8 months aging in oak. 2014 Chardonnay from the village of Puligny-Montrachet. That is super rare, guys, and it's still available as a wine, but few bottles left, guys. So yeah.
Cool. Phoebe, what are you drinking?
Well, I am drinking Sam O'Keefe's Age of Grace Lismore. So Sam O'Keefe is Lismore. This is the Age of Grace Viogner. I'm very lucky with people coming to visit us in the shop, and Sam came here, and it was just before I was doing a talk on women in wine, and I said to her, "What's it like being a female winemaker, Sam?" And she's a remarkable woman. You know, she moved from the US to the back of nowhere in South Africa. She's really made this region of winemaking. You know, it's very, very cold winters, baking hot summers. Why would you go into this? Why would you go into the middle of nowhere to make wine in a region that you don't even know makes wine yet? Anyway, she went off. She started making this, and anyway, she was in the shop. Backtrack. She was in the shop, and I said, "What's it like being a female winemaker?" And she said, "Fuck off." Basically, it's I'm a winemaker, and I make wine, and for the rest of the tasting I was kind of stunned into silence, and her wines are just beautiful. She ferments and matures in all sorts of vessels, which gives you amazing textural complexity to the wine, and she's amazing. I too am very into minimal intervention wine, but Sam, by no stretch of the imagination, says that she's into minimal intervention at all. She's into maximum intervention. But you know, it's a beautiful wine, and classic and poised and elegant and full of fancy honeysuckle and frangipani and loads of weight to the bottom of it, and loads of width and precision where it needs to be, and I really love it.
Actually, so I should have said beforehand, but I've made a Google Maps and I put it underneath the video here. It's in the information, and when I was making it, I saw where the vineyard is in South Africa there, and I couldn't believe the spot. It's like it looks kind of in the middle of nowhere, but like, yeah, I was like, wow, how did she manage to get that place?
But she didn't have sorry guys, did she not have a problem with a fire at her winery 2 years ago or something, or last year?
Sev, we didn't talk about that. We were going to talk about this. I haven't researched this, but yeah, she did have a fire.
Sorry.
No fire. No.
Sorry.
Yeah, she had a fire. I believe a larger wine importing company helped her out a little bit in the aftermath of that.
Okay, that's good.
But yeah, she did have a fire. But I think South Africa's had and is still having a super rough time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like the wine. I mean, South African wine to me is so exciting. The things that are coming through from South Africa are so cool. Yeah. And it's very difficult for me to not buy loads of South African wine when I see it. Our South African drop is full, but it's difficult for me not to extend it out. What was the question?
It was about the fire.
We're talking about fire. Yeah, she had a fire.
That's another reminder for me as well. If anyone's got any questions, you can put them in the live chat. As long as it's not about Phoebe's wine, we should be all right. She's not done any research.
Firefighting.
I have a tech sheet.
Okay.
And I'm also drinking the wine.
Susan,
That's
what are
most
you drinking?
important.
That sounds delicious. I am drinking a wine. I don't know if you can see the bottle. It's from a producer in Catalonia called Vega Aixalà. The wine is called Emma. It's the name of the winemaker's daughter. The winemaker is called Eva Aixalà. And they're in the Dio of Conca de Barberà, kind of near Tarragona. So really high up in the hills. I think they're 900 meters above sea level. And she had the same reaction when she was kind enough to give me some time on the phone this week, and we had a bit of a chat about her wine, and tentatively brought up this, so being a woman in wine, and she was just like, yeah, this is a farming job, so, if you want to make wine, if you don't mind rolling up your sleeves, and, it's tough and it's a physical job, but she was really keen to stress that when you're making wine, you're so much part of a team that even if you're a female winemaker, really the whole project relies so heavily on the input of everybody that forms part of the team that she didn't want it to sort of hang on her as a winemaker, as it were, and was very much wine as a team, and it takes everybody in it, which is very noble, but she seemed to be quite strong views about that. And I was speaking to a few other people I know working in wine this week. I gave a old friend a call, and she kind of had the same reaction of the sort of, I'm a winemaker and I make great wine, and that's kind of it. So the wine that I'm drinking of hers today, interestingly, is an Albarino Riesling blend from Catalonia. So I guess I'm, in my continuing efforts to drink Albarino not from the northwest of Spain where it's normally from, this one just caught my fancy because I thought, what on earth is she doing growing Albarino and Riesling up in the hills outside of Barcelona?
And presumably Riesling's hard to grow in those kind of conditions.
She said she's hard to put any of it, and it's quite hard wearing, like a hardy grape. So similar characteristics with Albarino, and she said it seemed to be doing really well. They're really high altitude, so we've got cool temperatures, big difference between day and night. So I think they get away with it because of their situation. Their soils, although they're in the Dio of Conca de Barberà, closer to Priorat, and so their soils are like really black slate, quartz, like big chunks. So she was kind of saying that we benefit from much more Priorat-like soils than we would if we were lower down. And I'm always just so impressed by the hard work that goes into some of the wineries. When you look at, where you've chosen to plant vines, and you think, surely there would have been an easier way. They're on this roll, they're on trellises, you can only harvest by hand. If you get any kind of motorised vehicle down, it can only go in one direction. And you just think, you can taste the effort in the glass, but it just reminds you how difficult it is to make wine. And when I worked in Galicia, the Albarino and up in Ribeira Sacra, which is one of my favourite wine regions, if you ever have the chance to go, make sure you do. If you've ever been, you'll know what I'm talking about. But really, really, really steep hills that go down to a river, and the vines are planted so steeply, you have to hand harvest. They had to put the grapes in barrels and roll them down the hill to the water. They sailed them around to then bring them in a van back to the winery. So I found it interesting that that's how they were making Albarino in Galicia, and you come all the way over to Tarragona and Catalonia, and it was the same sort of idea of this really steep trellis and just as hard work, basically. It's an Albarino blend with Riesling, 60-40. It's only the second vintage they've made. So Phoebe, you tasted this earlier on this morning as well, I think, and we were talking about how we thought we'd have.
Oh, you managed to keep. Wow.
Yeah,
keep some. Oh my god.
She's got some in, I think. So if you fancy trying it, then you can hit up Valhalla's Go.
Thank you.
They talk you into taking a case.
Yes, he did.
But it'll be interesting to see how it ages. It's quite fun to taste the wine right at the beginning because it doesn't have a history. This is only the second vintage, so we'll see. But it's got 7 days. I don't know if you can see the colour. 7 days maceration on this. Okay. They ferment both of the grapes in together, so really minimal intervention. Just hardly doing anything. It's 5 months aging, but just in stainless steel. And it's just got, when you first open it, the smell is really, really gentle and really subtle, and a lot of kind of like apricot, sweet, but really, really gentle. And then just on the back, that hint of kind of petrol-y aroma that you get from, you'd expect. But then really, really quickly, it opens up, and you got a lot more richer, really ripe fruit, and that kind of like apricot, the really tropical kind of Albarino type notes. And yeah, then you get hit with the wonderful acidity, which was the first thing when it gets in the mouth from the Riesling and the Albarino. So really mouth-watering, really kind of ripe fruit. But I was getting a bit of like honeysuckle and lime, and also kind of like lime peel. And then just a really lovely, long-lasting and quite a savoury finish for it being so fruity on the nose, and just, yeah, really delicate. And then you've tasted it a few hours later, Phoebe.
Well, that's what I'm tasting just now, and it's really interesting you talking
how it's developing. I know.
Yeah, I mean these are such interesting wines to have open for hours, and as is my wine. I read from the technical sheet. No, and it's so interesting having a wine open for a longer period. So Sam and I Sam, who's not here, tasted this morning at 10 a.m. This is how hard I'm working at the moment. And this has been open since 10, and it's just softened out. It's softened and
yeah.
That's just like delicious.
How are the tannins in it? If it's like got some a little bit of skin contact, is it just really soft and gentle?
They're really there. They're there. You really notice them, I think, on the finish a little bit. There's a bit of grip there, but they're really smooth. It's definitely not something that you get kind of up front. Doesn't kind of hit you in the face. So her grandfather, the family, it's a family project, and the grandfather always made wine on the side, like lots of places that you'll see in Spain, where it was kind of a side project or a hobby or an extra way of making a bit of money. And I think they came across some of the old vines that the grandfather had, and the father thought, we should really, do something with this and try and get more vines and more land and really give this a go and make this something that we do full time. So Eva was saying that her dad, who'd worked in construction, I think, and had earned some money doing that, put every single penny that he had into building what is now the Vega Aixalà winery and redeveloping the vineyards and planting. So I think they started doing that in 2003, and they've got the benefit of, when you're starting from scratch, apart from this, couple of vines from the grandfather that was left, you can kind of do what you want. You've got the freedom and the flexibility within, certain rules to do what you like. So I think they're having quite a bit of fun with things like Albarino. They make a Syrah, a Carignana. They've got a whole range of wines. I think they're doing something like a Cabernet at some point. You can see on their website all the stuff they do, but not necessarily indigenous, the focus on indigenous varietals, although they've got great Garnacha Blanca and red Garnacha also. But so they seem to be combining like experimental, but really loving and being true to the terroir and the land. So the area that they're in, I don't know if you've heard of Joan Ramon Escoda or Jordi Llorens, two kind of guys that are getting quite a big name in the natural wine scene. And Eva was saying that they've kind of been quite influential, or a good influence on them to say, go down this minimal intervention route. So they've always been 100% organic, but she said from very quickly in, because they were new, they were able to really follow this route, no sulfites, minimal intervention, really just letting the wine do what it
added a few of the tasting notes into the chat here as well. White chocolate, coffee beans, and hazelnuts. Which sounds amazing, because the ones that you were going on, you were saying about more the kind of tropical flavours. So it's amazing that it's got that kind of complexity, that's got some of the kind of savoury, nutty things as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And it opens up so quickly, the nose. It really develops a lot over a short period of time. I've not had this open for that long. So yeah, white chocolate. Yeah, I can see you were saying that this morning.
So how many cuvées do they have in the winery in Catalonia? How many
different wines are they making?
Yeah, how many cuvées? Yeah.
I think they've got about 11. I think it changes some year. They do some, and I know they do a Pinot Noir, but only in certain years.
So is it a new winery or that cuvée? It's a new cuvée.
No, it's a new winery. So I think they started work and rebuilding in 2003, and I think the first vintages were 2015, 16. I think were the first vintages that you're seeing coming through. So yeah, relatively new. This particular wine, it's only the second vintage. This is the 2019.
Okay. And so how many, you were saying like there's a lot, so how many of them she's the one
not a lot of people Not in the winery, just in that wine region. So in the same DO, the Conca de Bar.
Okay.
I think a lot of people in that one are going down the natural wine route. But yeah, no, it's her and her father, I think, are the kind of heading up the project, and it's a relatively small family. You know, they've got a small number of hectares and small production. There's only 2,000 bottles of this wine.
Yeah, because it's funny you mentioned about Spain and, you know, being a farm and, you know, everyone making their own ramen. They have a little bit making their wine, a little bit like Italy, you know. And Italy also, you've got a great female winemakers, especially into the natural wine like Occhipinti or Pantaleoni. And, you know, the top winemakers of, they like pioneers, female makers, especially natural, but not only. Like for you, Liam, today.
Here's one I made earlier.
Yeah, so this is the Calcalrius Rose. The Calcalrius project is by Valentina Passalacqua. Yeah, so I thought I would pick this one because we actually we had our orange wine, the Calcalrius orange wine, at our first pop-up. So we've always we love that wine. And then I thought, I had this one sitting there, and it's also a rosé, and girls drink rosé, don't they? So
it's a really rich colour. Let's have a look at the colour again.
So it's quite dark, yeah. That's the first thing you would say about it. It's quite dark.
What's the skin? How long is it for maceration there?
I think it's just direct press. So there's two grapes. It's Nero de Troia and Aleatico. So on the nose is actually like, to begin with, it's a little bit kind of salty, like a little bit of salty, yeasty. It's minimal intervention. But then you get a kind of, it's almost like a sour beer. It tastes a bit like that, kind of lambic style.
Yeah.
And then on the palate, it's just like really sharp cranberry, raspberry flavors. And the finish on it is just is so clean as well. It's only 10% alcohol, so it's really, really fresh. But yeah, the vineyard is based in Puglia, in Italy, but it's at the north of Puglia, so it's almost at kind of border with Abruzzo. There's like at the top of the boot, there's a wee sticky out bit. That's kind of where it is there. It's Gargano, it's called. So she gets like the influence from the sea as well, the Adriatic Sea, and I don't know if it's like the wild yeast, the kind of the natural yeast that occurs there or whatever, if that transfers through the saltiness, or I don't really know enough about it, but that's something that kind of strikes me on the nose.
Sure.
And then also like so Calcalrius is named after the soil there, so it's calcareous soil, like kind of white rock, kind of almost like chalky limestone. And so I've read that kind of soil transfers, because it's alkaline, transfers into the grape to make it more acidic. So like Puglia is obviously known for like Negro Amaro or Primitivo, these kind of big, rich, almost raisined wines, whereas the Calcalrius ones are more about being like clean and precise, a little bit lighter. So yeah, like she's using like the soil. She picks earlier than our neighbours, so like all these little things to kind of like try and like make the wine a wee bit more, like reserve a bit more acidity and kind of keep the wine light in its feet.
Sure.
But yeah.
Does it have the little crown cap? What's the closure on it? Because I know the orange wine had that little crown cap.
Yeah.
That people kind of.
This one's
pretty cool and.
This one's just a cork, just a normal one. It's gone now, but yeah.
Long gone.
But yeah.
Yeah, that sounds delicious.
Yeah.
But Phoebe.
On you go.
Sorry. Now, Phoebe. So yeah, just we talk about like women. Do you see more women or men coming to your shop purchasing wine or beers or etc.? What is the how do you deal when there's a woman or when there's a man, etc.?
Well, I think we spoke a little bit about when we were doing our pre-chat.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Pre-chat. We spoke a wee bit about male customers for beer not wanting a lot of female chat sometimes, which is quite interesting. I think over the years I've developed quite a fake authoritative voice in the shop, which people respond to quite well. So I think in terms of wine, we're dealing with, I've hardly even noticed whether it's male or female customers anymore.
Okay.
But certainly there's sometimes a little bit of friction when it comes to being a woman talking to a man about beer, and sometimes spirits as well. You know, there's a little adjunct there, a little pause with people. I don't know how you find that.
It's funny because sort of like you're working in the sort of sales rep world, which is where I was for a lot of the time.
I think that must be really difficult.
I don't know if it's any more difficult. I was just thinking like about different experiences, because you've got such polar opposites of great experiences and little, you know, and maybe not so great experiences. But I was listening to a podcast yesterday by Victoria James, who's the wine director at Cote, a great restaurant wine bar in New York. She was doing a podcast about women in wine or whatever, and really it's just, her kind of point was it's any minority really in wine. Wine in general has quite often just been a stomping ground for wealthy, older white males. So, you know, being a woman, if you want to be a minority as a woman, you could pick any minority really, and it's maybe the same.
The world's been a stomping ground for.
Kind of. She used the phrase which made me laugh, where she said, you know, she's going for a job as a sommelier. I don't know if you'll have had this experience, Evelyn, but she was like, sometimes it's like, you know, being indoctrinated more into like a frat house rather than a job. And she used this phrase, male, pale and stale, which made me laugh out loud. Because I guess she was referring to, you know, this kind of idea of older white males, I guess, where she'd found it difficult to work with. And I think the wine world is such a mix, because there's so many really great women and guys doing great things and being supportive of each other in the industry. And then there's another side of it. So you see a real mix. But being a rep, it's more the situations. Yeah, like if you think of something like Provine, especially for the British, I mean, it's a bit like spring break with chinos and loafers. You know, it's when you add alcohol into any kind of environment. You know, normally maybe in a business meeting you do it in the daytime in an office over a cup of tea, and you know, in the evening, and there's alcohol, and you can certainly have examples of if you don't laugh something off that might be inappropriate, then you know you're just not being fun, or where's your say.
Quickly, I remember one particular tasting I was at in London, where there were two things that happened. First of all, somebody made a comment. I mean, we've been talking about spitting before, but somebody made a sexual comment about me spitting wine out. First of all, which is just like, what? I mean, and then this kind of and then this really, I think, specifically when I go to taste and buy wine in London, and there's this older men really making a great big show of, I'm here and I'm taking up this space, and I am spitting here and I'm spitting from right here down into this. You know, it's a very
but sorry Phoebe, but what you say, I just want to quickly, Liam, do you remember that moment also when we were à la Dive Bouteille? And that's what I want to say also to you, to Susan. I don't think it's about the age really, guys. It's really about education, because seriously, you can see this crap
Are you talking
situation.
about the big Russian guy with his massive coat?
Yeah. A young guy, 30 plus.
He just kind of came and filled up the whole space.
Oh, the one, so that was in France, but the one in London, do you remember? A young guy, 25 plus, the same, just like, I mean, you know, I think really the thing is, it's definitely not about like the 50 plus, 60 plus. I totally agree, you know, I mean, how many times in a restaurant, I mean, not that many times, it's really a small pool, you know, it's 2%, 1% of the customers you see in the whole year, but you have sometimes, some really appalling comment, and it's just make you small, or you know, and you have to carry on because this is your workplace. Actually,
Oh, sorry, continue.
No, I just said that. It's definitely not about the age, but it's definitely about education, because even though still today you can see young people, guys obviously, in the staff, and this is outraging, really.
I was kind of on that education note then. you touched on this before, Phoebe, about, you know, people believing what you're saying, sort of, or taking your information as you being in the know. I can remember a customer asking, sort of going in, giving them the wine list and saying, you know, give me I'll let you have a wee look, but give me a shout if you'd like any recommendations or suggestions, then, you know, let me know and I'm happy to help. And their reaction was, oh yeah, you think you can recommend something to me? Come on then, you know, let's see what you've got. And it was so funny, like I had to really try not to burst out laughing, because it was just like, wow, like this has become sort of, you've just turned it into something like a sort of test, or I have to now, and I'm really just trying to help you get a nice glass of wine. And it was such a strange position to immediately take, but it kind of was kind of comical, but I was like, okay, where do you go from here? You know, it didn't need to necessarily be like that. And
I think sometimes wine can be a kind of perfect combination for all these things to come together as well, because wine itself, like, I don't know, it's kind of had this reputation as being a bit of a secret club, or like something that you've got to like. It's definitely had like gatekeepers, and so like traditionally, like the gatekeepers were always male or whatever, like that kind of way. There's also this thing, like this kind of thing that people feel as though maybe they need I don't know, they need to like show that they know about wine. So sometimes I don't know if it's, well, I'm certainly not going to defend anyone that's been sexist, but sometimes I think it's just people who are a little bit insecure about themselves, trying to assert their knowledge to their table or to their friends, and you know, trying to show off a bit. I think like that kind of.
But the wine world, I mean, I think the thing that I keep coming back to, and the thing that I'm pleased about doing in the wine world, is de-wankifying this whole thing and going like, okay, you don't know that. We're all just experiencing something which may taste different on different days, which may taste different according to the phases of the moon, or to the bottle that you're tasting, or to the amount of time that the bottle's been open. It's all so variable. So somebody coming along and going, I know what this is like, and this will always be the same, it's such nonsense, you know? And somebody trying to have that established, I know everything that there is to know. No, you don't. And the more I work in this industry, the more it's like, no, you just need to take every glass and every bottle as a new thing. And I think before not tonight, but we've talked about this idea of feminine and masculine as an idea for tasting notes, you know, or the more feminine style, the more masculine style. And I said before that it was a lazy thing to say, but all of these things, all of these established, like, I know this, it's so lazy, because you need to come to everything afresh, you know. Everything needs to be, and it makes our job completely impossible and remarkable and wonderful that you're tasting things and everything is different.
But it's funny because you come back to feminine and the masculine side. So just, you know, how many times, guys, I compared Burgundy with the feminine and the masculine side. And I'm an old school girl. I mean, I'm a classic background, guys, you know. And when you're thinking about Burgundy, you've got Côte de Nuit and Côte de Beaune. And for me, Côte de Nuit, the north, where you see your Pinot Noir mostly, so a darker style, Nuit Saint-Georges, etc. This is, for me, it was the masculine side. And going down south with the Côte de Beaune, where you've got mostly your white with your Puy-Morachet, your Meursault, your Chassagne, and blah, blah, blah. This is the feminine side. But it was more about the idea of, you know, it's like orange wine, or it's like about minerals in the wine. Have you actually put your mouth into the ground to see what actually tastes minerals? No, it's just gives an idea, a perspective of actually what the wine might be, you know. But obviously, when then you use gender, it's absolutely maybe wrong. But just quickly about come back to Burgundy, what I wanted to say is, so Puy-Morachet, I don't know if you heard about Domaine Le Fleuve, and actually those guys, the family of Pascal, they work for Domaine Le Fleuve. Alors no Olivier Le Fleuve, and those guys, no. Anne-Claude Le Fleuve, the Domaine Le Fleuve. that you have the Bâtard Montrachet, as the top game here. And Anne-Claude Leflèvre, she was actually the best winemaker of the year in 2004, I think, something like that. She introduced biodynamie in Burgundy in 1994. She was the pioneer of that. And example in Champagne also. When you heard about, Veuve Gallienne, Veuve Clicquot, Veuve means widow. Those women lost their husband and they've done their business into Champagne. They created actually Veuve Clicquot. She was the lady who created Champagne as you drink it today. And so women has been always part of the wine world. So yeah, sorry, I just need to say that.
I think we were talking about words to describe wine and how you kind of tend to, we've historically used masculine and feminine, but I think one of the great things about what's happening in the wine scene now, and especially in Glasgow, is, there's more places opening up. It's more informal and approachable. We're all really trying to I hate to say the word educate because that sounds quite preachy, but, share the knowledge. Yeah, share the knowledge that we have and encourage people to get more involved. And I think when people start to feel more comfortable about saying the words that they get rather than, the words you memorize from your WSET, permitted description words. I did some training recently and there was a guy there who had no experience in wine, but he just had a great palate and everything he tried, he was like, oh, I remember, I think it was a Sauvignon, and he took a whiff and he took a taste and he said, I'm right back up the park playing football as a kid. And I thought, what a brilliant tasting.
I never got that.
It was cut grass, It was cut grass, and it took him back, and it was a memory. And I thought, I'd much rather read that on a menu or have someone tell me that. I can relate to that a lot more. So maybe the more that we break down this kind of stuffiness, or there's right words and wrong words to use about wine, and we get people talking more about it, maybe the need for kind of masculine and feminine and those kind of words we've used historically, maybe the need for them will kind of diminish naturally as we get more.
Comment here in the chat, it's from Fuerk. Are we talking about gender drinking? Malbec is for men and Sauv Blanc is for women. White and rosé for women and red for men. It's another gender stereotype to break. But yeah, this is always I don't know, like when I was younger in pubs and stuff.
Can I say something?
Okay.
See this bottle that we've just got back in, right? This is a rosé Grenache.
Yeah, watch out if you're coming in sexist and get a back.
And it's a rosé Grenache from north of Spain, Daniel Ramos, and it tastes like a garden shed. It does not taste like anything, any other kind of rosé that you've ever experienced. For something that you could go, rosés for women, for goodness sake.
Nice. Pretty pale Provence.
And look at the rosé you're drinking. Yeah. I mean, it's so.
Yeah. Is it rosé or is it like red?
And look, the guy has chosen the rosé.
Yeah, and then does making does it make it better if this is a light red if I'm drinking it? Do you know, am I allowed to drink it now because it's a red? But yeah, like I was saying before, when I was younger, going into pubs and you see a guy with a pint and then I don't know, women with a glass of white wine. I don't know, maybe it's just because we're not really in a wine country or whatever, but
I don't have stats in front of me to hand, but I'm pretty sure that I read about the growth in the rosé, that a huge percentage of the growth was from guys drinking rosé, and also that as a trend, women are drinking more fuller-bodied red wines as the sort of growing trend. So I think that's where our perceptions don't match up, perhaps, with the reality, or the stereotype doesn't reflect what's actually happening in the trade.
Yeah.
I think, but yeah, don't quote me on that.
Another thing as well I was going to bring up is some of my favourite wine writers are women. There's Jancis Robinson, who's the most famous wine critic out there. I like reading Christina Rasmussen. I like reading Alice Feiring. So
she was in the press recently, Alice Feiring. Did you see that about who's the other writer? Was it Ron Washam? He writes a column that's on Tim Atkins' website, and he got in real hot water for a satirical piece he wrote criticising her, but that was really I haven't read the piece myself, but they took it down in the end because she was basically saying, as a woman, as an opinion, you attacked me as a woman rather than attacked what I wrote as a journalist. I think this just happened a couple of months ago.
Sorry.
Did you see anything?
I was just totally distracted by this comment in the chat here. It's about web STBS. It just said brosy. So that, like, if that was ever a female thing, it's never been claimed by guys.
Totally, yeah. I think that's what I was saying about the growth in the rosé sector, being guys drinking it, maybe.
It's now the time for me to bring out that gigantic phallic German rosé that I showed you before we came online.
Yeah, go get it. Yeah,
no?
Go get it.
No,
Go
okay.
get it.
Yeah, go and get it.
Go get it. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I can't wait.
It's really good. Shall I do the thing that I did earlier?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's worth the wait.
So sorry, you were saying.
And she's going to come back.
Liam, you were saying that you prefer women writers, or you follow a lot of them,
No,
or
I
what
was
was you?
just thinking about like some of the stuff that I read, and then it just so happened to be there was like quite a lot of women.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Who's getting married?
Oh my god. Wow, that is a bumper. Beautiful.
Sorry.
Phoebe, this might be a good time to plug your shop.
Why?
Because I think we're almost coming to an end. So
Oh, come to the shop or do online or stuff. Do we do that?
yeah. Tell everyone what you're doing
come
just
to
now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're doing home deliveries. Those are good. And we're doing you can come to the door and email us before you come to the door, and we just give you stuff if you don't want to hang about. Or you can buy from the door, or probably at the end of next week we're going to let limited people into Bryce.
Whoa.
I think as well it's quite well.
And then,
in the last wee while, it's been quite good that people haven't been coming into the shop for people to be able to like describe what they actually want to buy from them, and you can have a chat.
Well, we really like talking about stuff. So the team is absolutely amazing at talking about stuff, and they've been exceptional in the last wee while in talking to customers about. I get a little bit emotional talking about this because they're just people on the phone. They're brilliant. And describing flavors and people saying what they're eating and us matching things and us talking to people really about flavor, which is the most important thing to me. And the gang have been really brilliant. And we're a browsing shop, so I didn't want to let people in when you couldn't browse, and I want people to spend time and engage with what we've got in our really beautiful, incredible shop. So it will come back in a couple of weeks, and you can come in and look at it. And
wicked. Yeah.
But in the meantime, phone and don't phone. Actually, don't phone. Email.
Do
Yes,
that.
yeah. Mm.
Cool.
And you're going to be selling this wine in your shop?
We do sell that in the wine in the wine shop where I am. And it's quite expensive, but it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's not expensive. It's just that's the price it is.
Yeah, it is. That's it.
Yeah.
And Susan, you were saying just keep an eye out on the Vin Cru website, or keep an eye on the Vin Cru social media.
I think we're all waiting to see what the next easing of lockdown restrictions are and what that means for the on-trade and hospitality as a whole. Without the retail arm. So keep your fingers crossed and watch this space.
Cool. And Sev, check out your website. Sev's recent blog is amazing, by the way. If you haven't read it yet, go on to Sev's Slow Wine. Yeah, the sommelier one. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. But they're all very good, no, Liam?
Okay, they're all good. This one was my favourite though. And then there's also some guest appearances from Marshall, who's been on the show from Ubiquitous Chat.
Yes, correct. Yeah. That was good to have the guys, colleagues, to share their stories. But quickly. So this classic Burgundy wine, Chardonnay 2014 vintage, really the last bottles on stock, guys. Hopefully there's more to come. It will be 2018. Great vintage though in Burgundy. So here we go.
Amazing.
Awesome.
And you can get that on your website, Sev?
Yeah.
Great.
Excellent. Okay. I think that'll do us. Phoebe and Susan, thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks for having us on. Nice to
Yeah,
chat.
hopefully we get you on again.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anytime.
Cheers.
Enjoy the rest of your wine.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, that should be us.